Alrighty, folks, we are in a buyer's market. It's time to do the work. It's time for disrespectful offers. But did you know you might be sabotaging your offer and not even know it? You might have done the work and found a great deal, but if your offer isn't accepted because you have hurt yourself in some way or somehow, it's not going to be helpful. We're going to talk to a top 1% agent to help you highlight the fact that you might be sabotaging your offer and how to improve it. Beth, how you doing?
Hi, doing great, Mike. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, I love this opportunity. It's always great to talk to the top 1% in any
Thank
field.
you.
And you always just give an insight that the other 99% don't have. So when you look at offers and you're helping, write offers for others, how does a buyer not sabotage themselves? What are some things, I
Right.
guess let's highlight first, that does sabotage them that they may not even know?
Right. So I see a lot of offers hit my desk, so to speak. I review many and I see the winning ones and the ones some I just know immediately aren't going to be winners. Sometimes there are things that are done that the buyers may not even realize they are doing that are sabotaging their offer from the get-go. And it's often a accumulation of things. It may not just be one thing. And sometimes these things can be overcome and sometimes they can't, but I think there needs to be an increased awareness about it. And one of the things that kind of got me thinking about this and creating this list was lack of communication from the buyer agent or the buyer through their agent. I get offers sometimes where I've heard nothing from them at all. They're just throwing it over the wall to see if it's going to stick. I've heard zero, not a text, call, or email from this agent. Or, it's the buyer through the agent, right? So a lot of this is agent behavior. And the worst is if they forward a link to a signing, like here's a link to this completed signing. Lazy, lazy. And especially we're in a world here where buyers agents need to defend their value. It's been put through the fire and a lot are going to get pushed out. And some of them should if they're behaving like this. It's just lazy. And if you're the buyer wanting to get your offer accepted and somebody just forwards over a link, what does that say about you and your diligence in completing the sale? Because everything you do is an indication of how the whole transaction is going to go. And the listing agent and the seller, they need to be convinced that you can close and that it's going to happen and that you're taking it seriously. And that doesn't look serious when somebody just forwards a link to a completed signing with nothing other than here's an offer, nothing. I see
Man,
it more than you
buyers.
might think. And the buyers probably don't even know their agent's doing that. They might,
Yeah.
but
Well, I'm going to assume most buyers don't know their agent's doing that because most buyers, oh yeah, they get whispered sweet nothings, right? Oh yeah, I'm taking care of you. Thank you for signing it, blah, blah, blah. I got it off at, 5:05 p.m., whatever it is. But what is something a buyer, right, who's doing the work, writing disrespectful offers, how do we test for that? How do we make
yeah,
sure our
it's
agent
tough
isn't
because someone
lazy?
can provide lip service and say they're doing it. But part of it is that what I would say is, what is the seller's situation? What do you know about these folks and their situation? Because they'd have to have a conversation and some communication to know that. And maybe set your expectations ahead of time that you want to know these are the things that I expect in my representation. I think it's okay to have standards and dictate what
Well,
those standards are.
let me ask, because again, I'm just trying to paint a vision where our community could take better action. So again, right, most of the people that are following me now are doing disrespectful offers on old listings, right? Days on market, call it greater than 30, greater than 45. Let's assume they're doing that now. What what would you say if I was writing an offer through you? Let's just say we were doing that for a minute. And I said, "Hey Beth, I found these two listings. Before I write an offer, I would like you to call the listing agent and just ask, why do you think this has been on the market for 45
Mm-hmm.
days?" Could we ask for that, or is that too much?
Absolutely ask for that. I think that's 100% reasonable and should be done in every case. I think my questions I would ask are, where I would want my agent to ask are, why do you think it hasn't sold? Have you received offers? Can you share anything about what those offers were like? They may or may not say. Some are very open about that, and some won't tell you anything. What are their plans? What are they, because that helps a lot. I just like to ask, what are their plans? Because people like to
Yeah.
talk about their plans. This is something that's a good question when you're talking directly to a seller too, is like, tell me about your plans. What are you
Yeah.
looking
Where
to
are you going?
accomplish? Because
Yeah.
they're not trying to
Exactly.
sell a house. They're trying to accomplish their goal of their plan, whatever that is. It's not
Yeah.
the house is a stepping stone. So it's finding motivation, and just kind of fleshing that out a little bit. What's
Yeah.
important to the seller? Would they rather have a fast closing or a higher price? Or is it if they were able to leave their things in the home that they don't want, or a rent back where they get to live in the home after close? Find out what these things are that are important to them. What would make it easier for them?
Yeah.
Those
The
are the
other
kind of
thing,
things.
the other thing I would scratch, and this is probably what I would do if I was going direct to a listing agent as a buyer, right? So I'm not an agent in this case. I'm a
Yeah.
buyer in this case. And it's probably going to be on a listing that's probably 90 days or greater. I would be asking that listing agent, I guess I'd have two questions. Question one is what do you think the chances are they let the listing expire and they just stay in their place? Again, seeking motivation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Agents don't make any money on a cancellation.
Right.
Right? It doesn't happen. So I would fish for that. And again, these are on older listings, probably 90 days or greater. And then I would try to figure out, what are the chances you might lose the listing, right? How upset are these sellers because you haven't brought them an offer or it's overpriced? So when it gets to be really long, I start fishing for agent motivation.
Right. Smart.
Yeah. So that's what I would do. What is the contract standard in King County? Is it 6 months, 90 days? What is it?
Well, it depends. It's really negotiable. I would say
Well,
180 days, 6
yeah, so
months is
6
about the
months.
long end of it. So
Okay.
some might do a 90 days, but 180 is pretty normal too.
Yeah. So if 180 is normal, I would be calling on because if you have a listing that's 90 days, that agent probably has had several uncomfortable phone calls with
Oh
the
yeah.
sellers or face to face. So
Yeah.
that's where I would start fishing.
Right.
One of those.
Yeah, because there's motivation on the agent side too, and that's a really good point. Now, something I want to say also about like the forwarding of the link and stuff, a lot of times it's because if somebody's just spraying offers everywhere, and I know that's a strategy that investors use sometimes, I think it's better to be a little more selective about where you focus your energy. But if you're going to do that,
let's define spraying, because I don't want anybody doing that. I don't want anybody going into a market going, I'm going to write 35 offers on 35 listings. That's not doing the work. That's frankly being lazy.
Yep.
What I'd want you to do is look at a listing of 35. I would like you to comb out the top 2 to 5 that are perhaps the greatest deals. Then call an agent, like we talked about earlier, and say, hey, I want to know about these 2, 3, 4, 5 listings, and this is why. Do that. Don't write 35 offers on 35 listings.
Do the work first to also, you're going to burn out your agent too if you're doing that. Also, we don't get paid unless something closes, and people don't like to work for free. So, but one thing you can do, I remember Dion said his agent created a template, a Dion template. That's the right thing to do if you're going to be writing a lot of offers. Make your template. And you can even make an email template for when you send it over to the agent, a cover sheet or something that looks professional, like you're trying, and make it a well-presented offer and a well-written offer without spending hours each time. So
yeah, definitely do
you
that.
can do that to make things more quick if you're putting out a lot of offers and you want to make it efficient for your time. But I agree with what you're saying, where you shouldn't be making 35 offers. You should be making maybe 3 on the most likely ones. And then every week, maybe you just revisit and follow up. You got to do the work. The lazy way is not going to get you very far. The best investors are the ones that do the work and the ones that are consistent and ones that follow up.
Yeah, they're selective, right?
Yeah.
They, like in the example of 35, there are the creme de la creme deals, and then you go down the list. You don't go, oh, they're not all the same. Right?
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
And another one, I would say this is a level up from that on the lazy scale, I would say, but a text is not an offer. Can't tell you how many times I've received texts, and it's from investors almost exclusively. Hey, we want to offer this. It's in a text. Boom, 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 boom. Like, that's not an offer.
No,
if you
not,
just so
it's
you
not
know,
a legal offer.
legally, we have to provide all written offers. That's not a written offer. It has to be on an offer form sent to me. Then I present it, and I do present all offers. So
yeah, that's a big deal, because some people think they've made an offer. Again, a text is not an offer. An email is not an offer. Conversations.
Yeah. How does that inspire confidence in a seller or a listing agent that you're going to perform? It doesn't. I feel like this has a very, very slim chance of closing, even if it was real.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
tends to be wholesalers a lot of times doing that
Yeah.
too.
If you're
And
going to
that's a
do an
whole
offer,
different
write
thing.
it off. Yeah. Write it off.
Yeah,
If
write
you
an
want to
actual
write an
offer.
offer.
Text is not, some people don't realize that. They think they made an offer and they didn't. That is not an
Nope,
offer.
not an offer.
So
I like it.
don't do that. And that kind of goes into my third point, which is a sloppy offer. So you get an offer, a written offer, but there's a lot of things missing in there that need to be in there. And
Okay.
it just looks like they didn't really try to put together a complete
Now,
offer.
so give me an example. Like, is this again on the standard form, just incomplete? Like they did the
Yeah.
address and a price, and that was it?
Yeah, blanks missing, or we need certain things like if you're waiving something, sometimes you just got to know your job. Like there's different, every MLS is going to have their different things. Like there's certain forms that need to be included. Like lead paint form has to be in there if it's built before 1978. Like don't make me chase you for that. It's already attached to the listing. Put it in there. The basic forms, the disclosure, the legal description, sometimes they don't put things in there that are just basic, like, you know, what type of financing they're getting, like check a box, those,
Yeah, exactly.
there's no
Cash or
pre-approval
loan.
letter. Send me a pre-approval letter. My seller is not going to sign an offer without a pre-approval letter or proof of
Right.
funds.
Exactly.
Send them with the offer. Don't
Yeah.
make me
Make
chase
it
that
complete,
down.
folks. Don't be lazy. Don't be sloppy. I like it.
Yeah,
Sloppy.
don't
Don't be
do that.
sloppy.
And then the other one would be not reading the listing or the agent remarks, So like there's certain things in there where it might say, we need this, this has to go through lawyer review or something. It's an estate sale or whatever. There's things in those agent remarks that are important. And then when you ignore that, again, it just looks like you're not.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. I mean, just
Mhm.
like agent remarks could say, "Hey, this is a probate sale. We need 7 days
Yeah.
to review all offers," and then you submit an all cash offer, that expires in 24 hours.
Perfect
They can't
example.
accept.
That's
They
exactly
can't
what I'm
accept it.
talking about.
They
Yeah,
can't accept
exactly what
it.
I'm talking about. And that goes to show that they didn't read the instructions, or they could at least had a phone call to me like, hey, what's the deal with the lawyer attorney review or whatever? Troubleshoot it with a phone call or something. But if it looks like they're not reading instructions, it's frustrating because a lot of times it's all right there. I know for me, like I've tried, my team and I, we make sure when a listing is out there on the market that every single thing that a buyer needs to do due diligence ahead of time, to write a complete and thorough offer is all there. And there's an offer guide that says, here's some helpful tips that you should consider when you're writing an offer on this listing. It saves a lot of trouble and a lot of counter offering and back and forth and all that. Just take a couple minutes and read the instructions. You're filling out the offer anyway. Just make sure that you're doing it the right way.
I don't know
Yeah.
your MLS. Are agent remarks visible to the public? Or are they
No, they are
only
not. So this is
yeah,
something that it's only visible to the agent. The buyer would not see that, but you could ask your agent what they need that might be in those remarks. If there's special
Well, so
instructions,
what?
that's where they will be.
Yes. So what would an average person see in that example of a probate sale? Would they know it's probate? Is it flagged
No,
as
a
a
lot of times
no?
they would not.
So there
Because
would be
most of those
nothing for
fields
the
like
average
owner
person to see.
name or
Yeah.
the agent remarks, etc. They would see what's in the public remarks and the data about the home. You might see something in the tax records potentially.
Could it be in the public remarks also? Probate sale?
Sometimes
Okay.
it'll say, for example, like a state sale. It'll
Yeah,
say
there you go.
state sale.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
So again,
sometimes it
don't
won't. So I would ask if you're making an offer on a property, I would want to know like what's the goodies are in those agent remarks a lot of the time.
how
They'll say
often are
things
agent
about seller's
remarks
situation.
how often are agent remarks filled in? Like half the listings?
All of them pretty much. They always have
Really?
something in there.
They
Yeah.
always have something. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It might say seller would like a short rent back. Seller, yeah, it's an estate sale. Use this title and escrow company because we already have title ordered through this company. Things
Okay.
like that.
All right.
Form 17 exempt. Well, that's our disclosure, seller disclosure exempt. Things like
Got it.
that,
Okay.
or it might say something about their motivation too. Seller bought, sometimes they even say things like seller bought contingent or something. Ooh, that's a good nugget to
Yeah.
know.
I want to know
You
that.
wouldn't know that
Exactly.
unless you ask what's in those remarks. That's something I would say for buyers out there is ask what's in those agent remarks. If there's any little nuggets to be had in there, that's where they will be. That, and then the follow-up call will get more information about that and really, really, really increase your chances of being successful with your offer.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this next one is something that I wanted to dive into a little more about, talking about everything you don't like about the house. Now, this is interesting and let me explain. So I know a lot of these houses we investors make offers on are fixers. There's going to be a lot of things wrong with these houses a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time. There's reasons why they're on the market a long time. And there might be things that you want to negotiate on that. I'm not saying don't negotiate. Do not misinterpret that. I love to negotiate, and I've gotten some red hot deals on houses that have issues. But I always come at it from a way that's a little more friendly. And there's always something you like about the house. That's why you're offering on it. Oh, I like this house because this is an area I'm interested in. Or you might even say, I have other properties in the area, or whatever makes sense to say about it. We like the floor plan, we like the location, but in order for work for us, there's some things that we're going to need. And then you talk about that. But when you come in and just start clobbering, this house sucks because this, that, and the other. I've had some people get really confrontational and mean about it. People don't like to work with mean people. It's just human nature. They're going to put up a wall.
The seller needs to say yes. And if they don't like you or they think you're a jerk, it doesn't matter. They'll wait for somebody
You
else.
won't get that far. So it's all about just, this is a human relations business. Even though we as investors think more transactionally, you got to connect to that human part of the seller. Now, if it's bank owned or whatever, nobody cares. That's a different thing, but if there's a real human being involved, you got to connect on that. And for some people, this was their home that they loved and they lived there for decades. And you go in there and you tear it apart, they're going to not like you, and they're not going to want to not sell to you, even if they would take less money from someone else who was nice.
I've seen that. I've seen people take less money from somebody else. It's their choice. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to think about, just being the more collaborative versus combative negotiation style will get you everywhere. You'll get far more. And just connecting with the human part that you can, I have empathy for people and I care about people. And I think that we as investors are problem solvers to help people. And so we can help them move on with their life. And then so you just connect with that and find a way to make that connection. You will be far, far more successful as an investor doing that. So just
love it.
Don't fall into that trap of trashing the house. Even if there's a lot of things that you want to negotiate on it, just do it the right way. That to me is not the right way. Some people have that style. Some people are more combative and that's their style. And you'll never convince them otherwise. But just know that people like to work with nice people. That's just how I have always found it to be. This is one of the things something I see a lot, sometimes going on between agents, arguing over text. Do not argue over text.
Pick up the phone.
Never. I see it all the time. I see these screenshots people send of like, look what this person said to me. Like, did you pick up the phone and talk to them? And if you're just firing off a text back, that is such bad communication. So, and if I ever hear something from one of my clients, for example, or the other agent or anybody, be saying like, hey, we're not happy about this thing happened, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling. I'm not going to respond to that on text, because you can talk it through in a conversation where it's going to go nowhere good on a text, and you will burn that bridge and probably lose the client, lose the deal. Relationships torn apart. Don't do it over text. If it gets hot, you got to have the phone call and talk to people. And 99% of the time, you can smooth it over if you just say, hey, I understand that's got to be really frustrating. Let's see what we can do about that. And they just feel like, oh, she's listening, he's listening. They understand, and we're working through it. You can't do that over text. There's no tone. And I see it happening a lot. And I feel like things are going more and more that direction of this bickering over text. And sometimes it might be agents doing their negotiating over text. Do not negotiate over text. If somebody wants to talk about terms or any of that, pick up the phone and talk. And that really is, again, if somebody takes a few of these tips and integrates them into their strategy, you'll be far, far more successful. The one thing I want to leave it on is how it starts is how it ends. And if it's easy and if it's at least collaborative and it feels like it's productive and friendly and everyone's working together, that's how that deal is going to go all the way through. If it's combative or sloppy, or hard in the beginning because nobody's listening or interacting or doing it the right way, that's how it's going to go all the way through. And everybody, those are the kind of transactions that will take years off your life and give you gray hairs. And it's just like, don't do that. Set the tone from the beginning for a successful transaction all the way through. And so
Yeah.
keep
I
those
love it.
things in mind. You'll have a lot more success.
The one thing I'll give to us as investors who are writing disrespectful offers, which could be 20, 25, 30, 35% below list prices, it's our job. We have to have extreme ownership. It's our job to communicate either with the listing agent or with the buyer's agent why we're doing that. I don't want to see anybody in my community just write up a 35% below offer without justification.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't have to be written justification, but
Yeah.
you have to either arm your agent so that they can have that conversation, or you need to communicate with the listing agent on why. Right. It's 35% below because those are where the numbers work. I'm a cash flow, the drill.
There's the reasons why it needs to be this way. If it's a fit, it's a fit.
And it's
and
not,
let's
it's
do
not.
a deal if it works. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But having that conversation.
Because again, you have to remember there's this people, right? This seller might be in a horrible spot and need to get out. If you just slap a 35% offer right in front of them with no communication, 9 times out of 10, they're just going to say no.
Yeah.
Or they'll counter back at list price. Right.
If they respond at all. Yeah.
Which is not helpful for anyone.
And people are stressed. When that seller is stressed, and you need to be respectful of how that is for them and try to help them through that.
But if you go in with a story of why it's 35% and you're happy not to buy it, you've disarmed the situation. Now the seller has complete control. They know why the number is there, and they have to make a personal choice.
Exactly. Right? And some will decide to work with that.
Yeah, they will.
And maybe you can make other terms work where they can work with you on the price, but you give them something else that works for them.
You trash
to
it out
alleviate their stress and get them where they want to go. That's it. And then I know this was a little bit of a ranty video, but I want people to know that I'm coming from a spot of wanting to help all of us in the community be more successful. So
not ranty at all educational. Yeah. Okay. Go. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to buy in King County, or better yet, get a referral to another top 1% agent, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can find me through my website, bethtraversogroup.com, or I'm in the school community too, or on the Facebook page. And I'm easy to find out there. If you just Google my name, you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.